So good day, all. My name is Robert Savino, and I'm on the executive board of the Walt Whitman Birthplace. I welcome you here today on behalf of our executive director, Caitlin Shaw, and the Walt Whitman Birthplace Association to the third gathering of Season 4's Triangulation Journey, Poets Building Bridges. Poets Building Bridges is produced by Poetrybay Production for the Walt Whitman Birthplace and led by George Wallace, who is the writer in residence here for 15 years. And George, I understand the Pope is looking to build bridges. Maybe you can give him a little bit of help after 4 years of experience.
I think he's a Chicago Cubs fan. So
The birthplace offers events throughout the year, and I recommend that you visit our website at www.waltwhitman.org. As always, I thank the poets and guests for being on the journey with us today. I thank Jennifer, our technical director and events coordinator back at the birthplace, who supports us all the time, and for George, as he continues this program, continues to contribute to the birthplace and to poetry, both in our community and worldwide. And now I turn it over to George.
thank you, Robert. Thanks a lot. That's Robert Savino, former Suffolk County Poet Laureate, um, and a real mover and shaker in a lot of different capacities here in the region. So I want to thank Robert for his work with the Walt Whitman Birthplace. I want to thank the Walt Whitman Birthplace itself. I mean, this Zoom session, Matthew, as you know, 4 years ago when we started doing this, we were kind of like seat of the pants operation, trying to figure it out as we went along. But after the first year, the Woman Birthplace took up the reins of the technical aspects of making this happen, and they've done a great job of supporting us, in terms of engineering the show and making the recordings happen. So, thanks to the new leadership at the Woman Birthplace, Caitlin Shea and her assistants, including Jennifer, who's with us here today. Um, yeah, it becomes more and more difficult to do the different things I do, and as the writer in residence, representing the birthplace with programs like this, and a great essential program, and actually traveling nationally and internationally. So that when I'm not available at the show, and Robert Savino steps in and does a great job of filling in for me, like he did last Friday night when I was still in Casablanca to host the Walking with Whitman series. So it's a team effort. You all know that because all of you are in one way or another as members of the poetry community, locally or nationally or beyond. This is a team effort, and so glad to be able to have you here today to continue it with this particular issue. Well, it's building bridges. Right? Essentially, the concept is a triangulation of three different communities, so different places around the world, groups of people, so that it's not just some random, you know, collection of people who happen to have been pulled together for a show, but there's some networking possibilities, a compounding of networking between groups of people in different locations internationally. It's worked very well, and some of you have been part of it in the past, and each of you in your own way, I've had association with and know all the good work you do. So we'll have a good time. But feel free to listen in and make comment on the chat room here on the Zoom, and even back channel if you want. Talk to each other if you want to make any sort of communication and extend your conversation with people behind the scenes. That's part of what we're about. So we have today with us a group from New York City, a group from Florida, Tampa Bay area, and a very interesting group of people pulled together by Arturo Desimone, who I met in Medellin, um, which focus on the Caucasus region of that's not quite Central Asia, nor sort of Russia, Turkey sort of area. So the very different combination of locations. And to get us started, we're going to go right to Larry Jaffe. He's originally a New York native, but he's been living in Florida for yonks, and uh, and he runs the poetry reading series at the Jack Kerouac House. And I think you can tell us more about that. I think in St. Pete, um, and and and is one of the beat poet laureates. Fine friend to poetry. So, Larry, why don't you take it away and give us your set of people that you're going to talk about and share with us.
Thanks, George. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you so much for inviting us. It's truly an honor. Unfortunately, a couple of people of our guys dropped out at the last minute. And, well, that's the way poetry goes at times. With me is Dr. Gregory Byrd, who's a professor at St. Petersburg College here down in the Tampa Bay area. He's an incredible poet, incredible writer, and a real supporter of the arts. And me personally, I really appreciate the guy. One of the coolest things about being in the Jack Kerouac house, it's a rather unassuming ranch-style house in St. Petersburg, out in the suburbs. It's not right in the city. But the place is just imbued with Jack's spirit. A lot of the furniture is still from there. There's a typewriter that is identical to the one he was using. They had to get a different one. But Ken Birchinall and the board of directors have done an incredible job taking care of the house, bringing it up to modern standards, and doing a lot of events, especially artistic events in the community. I can't say enough about the board of directors, but the magic is in reading it. Reading there, Greg perhaps could touch on that. You just feel it. Every featured poet that we've had there just remarks about how incredible the spirit is there. So without further ado, I'm introduced Greg, and he's going to read from some of his work today, and then I'll come back and read a little bit from my book. Greg, are you there?
Yes, I didn't know if you were finished. So wonderful to be with you. And I think Larry's understating things a little bit, which he doesn't usually do, about the reasons for the energy at Jack Kerouac House. I think it has as much to do with Larry's enthusiasm and setting up, kind of making that energy possible, and reminding us. He opens every reading with a selection from Kerouac's work, and kind of helps to remind us of Kerouac's importance and of his vibe. And I think that's one of the things that helps bring that house and those feelings together so much. So thank you so much, Larry, for continuing to make those readings happen. He has a very cool approach to the readings there. Instead of having the featured reader come in, do their reading, and then everybody goes home. He starts off with something from Kerouac, and then he has two or three open readers read usually two poems apiece, and then about 20 minutes for the featured reader, and then an open reading after that. And that has a wonderful way of really bringing everybody into the experience, that poetry is not only about reading, but also about writing, and about expressing and sharing. And one of the things I notice about those readings is that contrary to a lot of open readings where it seems like everybody is kind of sitting there waiting for everybody to get finished so they can have their own say. Everybody actually listens and is quite involved in what's going on. So it's a very generative, positive experience. I wanted to open with since this is about building bridges and connecting, I wanted to open with a poem of mine responding to the great Chilean poet Pablo Neruda. And this poem was one of those gifts that happens every once in a while, if you're lucky. A friend of mine was reading Neruda and at work, and she sent me this poem and said, "Hey, have you ever heard about this?" And this was my response to her. And so this is called On Being Asked What I Thought of Neruda's The Enigmas. When I read poems like Neruda's The Enigmas, I think I ought to buy lots of woodworking tools and learn to make cabinets. But then I meet a cabinet maker who makes joints that fit together like the sections of an orange. And I think to sell my tools and learn to fish. But then I meet a fisherman who knows the fish roads of the sea like crease-worn maps. So I think of selling my nets, which reminds me of Neruda's The Enigmas. So I stick with poems and remember that some of us swim among the hundreds of mullets spawning together on cold, grassy flats under a wind-blown gray sky, and that the great whales that breach far out at sea and sound the darkest depths of spirit-crushing pressure make every small creature that swims and spawns, even in the shallowest water, a worthy archetype. That's from my latest book from Texas Review Press, The Name for the God Who Speaks. And I was really kind of surprised that they published this book, because a lot of it has to do with my going through a cancer experience back in 2012. My dad died about the same time. It was really like really a horrible kind of time, but it sent me into some places that I hadn't experienced in a while. And one of those things that it sent me back into was this poem by, I've never known how to pronounce his name, Paul Zweig. Does anybody know him? Know his work? George, you do? Wow. That's I picked up this book. It's a beautiful book for a paperback with pictures in it. And it was written while Zweig was in Dordogne, France, and he was living in a little stone farmhouse, dying of lymphoma, and he knew he was dying. And I picked up this book. My college mentor, Peter Meinke, had given us an assignment, which was find a book of poetry, read it, and give a report. So this was 1984. And so I picked up this book, read it, gave my report, and came back to it every once in a while. But when I was going through chemo, I looked up at my bookshelf and I saw this book. And I thought, yeah, that's what he was writing about. That's what he was going through as well. And so I started rereading those poems, and it reminded me how important poetry is for almost to kind of bank when you read those poems. They may not necessarily reach you at the moment, but they're important for later on. This is for Paul Zweig. I am trying to remember how it was to be dying. When I read poems of light in my study in twilight, waiting for the world to brighten, reading Paul Zweig as my only hold on things. And this a quote from him, a curious feeling that I must pay attention or death will gain on me. And Paul, how can one not pay attention to the light on the wall, from headlights going to work, the rising light of morning that adds one lumen at a time and then is light, the falling light of dusk where one lumen dies at a time and it is night. How do some not see the individual moments of pines when they are that close to death? You know what it was to wake early, even when you didn't want to, called to the world's miracle of light, writing in your late 40s, as I am now, in that little stone farmhouse in Dordogne. I wish I could have talked with you then, for I was reading your book as you faced your own dusk, too young then to understand your poems, but drawn to your images, St. Paul, as if you knew I would reach 47 and stare at an early morning's light and need these words. Um, on hearing of the death of a friend while vacationing in Edinburgh for Sandra. It is always the same when we find out. We are in Edinburgh in March. A cold front has swept through, spinning fat flakes of snow into spirals in the clothes outside the hotel room. They do not stick on the ancient stones, but melt into wetness. We are listening to long choral lines of Gabrielli, some miserere or other, but still, we are not thinking about death and loss, but the soaring of the cathedral across the street, the walks we will not take. We do not think about the tall man and his gentle, dry humor, because we know we will see him again, because we know we will see everyone again. And then we see the message where she tells us he is gone. It is never the same when we find out. Sometimes we are at work and busy. Sometimes it is late at night. Sometimes we awake with the message. Sometimes we know already. But the old stones of another's passing are that cathedral which lurks across the street, beautiful and cold and sublime on a clouded March day. In 2011, I was a Fulbright fellow to Albania. And I got to, that was a really awesome experience. And I hope Fulbright Foundation continues to exist after current situation has been resolved. And I was concerned that I wouldn't be able to attend because I had some, I had a mortgage to pay. Fulbright actually pays fairly well, but they don't pay enough for you to do cover everything at home as well. But I was concerned about leaving my my 11-year-old daughter at home and my wife, my daughter because I would miss her, and my wife because she'd be saying, "Why aren't you taking me with you so we can do cool stuff?" Um, and so I mentioned this to Fulbright, and they said, "Oh, well, we'll give you more money so you can take your family along." And the idea there is that your family will be interacting with the people in Albania, and they'll get even more positive stuff out of it. We were there during Albania is about 85% Muslim, described as Muslim light by the State Department when they gave us our security and cultural briefing. And we were there at the time of Orthodox Easter, and there's a sizable Orthodox population. And we thought, well, this is cool. We'll go to an Orthodox Easter service. And we figured it would be fairly lightly attended. But it turned out that in Tirana, the capital, there are many, many, many Orthodox believers. And the experience, the roads on the way, just walking, were packed. And one of the things you do is light a candle, venerate the icon of the baby Jesus, and then listen to the carols, because we didn't speak very much Albanian. So we listened to those. And this happens at midnight, or coming up to midnight. And then often people will go home and continue the celebration throughout the night into the morning. At the time, my daughter was taking, we tried to get her into Albanian school, but it didn't work out. So at the time, she was taking Florida virtual school classes, so she didn't lose her place in middle school. And this is my daughter learning geometry in a foreign country. She prays over her little computer, her body twisted into shapes only an 11-year-old can call comfortable. Her lessons online show her circles and parallelograms, circumference and radii. She writes down the formulas which promise to explain it all. 3 days ago, we went to the Holy Evangelist for midnight Easter service. We crushed into worshippers carrying their unlit candles, and some were standing and listening to the service on the street, and some were yearning towards the church where lit candles burned around the icons. We were pressed hard against those in front and behind, candles held high or near our faces by those returning from the sanctuary. Then the street opened, and we were in the narthex, lighting candles with the faithful, venerating the icon in our own clumsy way. My daughter crossing herself and kissing the baby Jesus on his small feet. At midnight, the bells high in the bell tower began to peal, and the people in the nave sang in Albanian a song about Jesus enlightening the world. They kept singing as the bells stopped ringing, and the priests and bishops chanted prayers like a song that would rise forever into the dome where Christ Pantokratos ruled the unending circle of his dominion. What was the volume of that dome? How many notes would fit into an evening? What formula would one use to explain the night's light for us unbelievers? Outside the church, my daughter vowed to keep her candle lit all the way home. So I've lost track of time, Larry. How much do I have? Another two or
One more poem.
one more poem? Uh,
George, does that work out?
okay.
Thumbs up.
All right, let's do this one. This was a poem accepted by a journal called the Urthona Buddhist Review. I'm not quite sure if it actually appeared. It was supposed to have appeared some time ago. And this is called Telephone Call I don't think there's anything you need to know about this. Telephone call. There will come a call in a quiet and gentle voice you trust, a timbre before you understood strangeness. And you will listen as you idle in your pickup, sedans blaring around you. Listen happily as if your mother has called you, or lost in a far city and told you how to come home again. You know the blue sky littered with Monet clouds, the face of a woman pushing a stroller. You think she must be a sister. It suddenly seems that the old woman in your mirror must have changed your diaper a long time ago, given you cream of wheat with butter and milk. You remember being in that yard, cutting wood or grass. The unshaven man in the panel van, you're sure you worked with him in Florida summers where sweat melted into humidity and cheap beer on a pickup gate was better than anything at all. So you smile as you hear this voice and recognize all the people around you. This voice says something like 11 a.m. in a pickup truck, intersection of Drew and Cleveland. And you begin to set your affairs in order, reconciled to some version of contentment beyond this polluted world. In your thoughts, you say goodbye to your family, your best friend, your huge and wise cat, even your fish you bid farewell, good life, don't worry about me. You are ready to let it all go when the voice continues, here at 11 a.m., next Tuesday in the backyard with the pepper bush, Saturday hanging drywall with a friend, 15 years from now, brushing your daughter's hair before she graduates, and the voice goes on and on until your little phone wears down from the long litany of times you will awake. And the last one you hear is, here, where you lean against this chair, reading this poem. Thank you.
Thanks, Greg. That was super. A little bit more about Kerouac House, because I neglected to read any Kerouac before we got started. Thanks for reminding me. We really feel like we're continuing the legacy and the Beat legacy. I'm also the editor for Beat Life, an online publication. But a little bit of, we had a kind of haiku palooza earlier in April in celebration of National Poetry Month. And what Jack Kerouac says about haiku is really cool. He says, write haikus, then paint the scene describing them. The best haiku gave him the sensation I get looking at a great painting by Van Gogh. It's there and nothing you can say or do about it except look in dismay at the power of looking. Jack Kerouac. Couple of his haiku. 7 birds in a tree looking in every direction. The birds surprise me on all sides. A lot of cat stuff here. In a Mojave Desert storm, Albert said, Sensi was a Mongolian wolf. Anyway, I love Kerouac. My favorite is Dharma Bums, which I tend to read every year. A little bit of my work is from my book, Unprotected Poetry. It's called One-Eyed Splendor. I see you with one eye because my other eye is too busy confronting reality. With my right eye, I take in your grace and beauty, while my other eye is jaundiced by the man on the corner in rags, begging for food or drink and maybe work. And then I see your smile working hard to get my attention. But when I watch the news about some drive-by shooting of children, my attention is split. And now I have one eye crying and the other smiling back at you. My life feels crossed as my eyes peel away in opposite directions. One eye wants to enjoy life, the other crying because of it. It splits me apart right down the middle. And it's not that I don't love you. I just don't know how to love life when it looks at me this way. I always keep one eye peeled for trouble and the other's aimed for pleasure. You see, life has me coming and going. I look both ways when I cross the street, but I cannot wait for the light to change to make my moves. Can't wait for permission, Mother, may I, to breathe my life. My fingers fly across my keyboard, creating beauty and people's lives so undernourished by pain. My one eye feeling the blemish, the other trying to be optimistic. But I'm having trouble because I paid the wrong dues and now my membership is up. And when I see you lying there in erotic slumber, I want to close my bad eye. I want to close my bad eye when I walk down the street, even if it's Beverly Hills, because behind that facade of rich and famous lies this empty rice bowl soul. And I want to close my bad eye because it cries so damn much. And on that side, I'm running out of tears. Tears of submission, tears of admission, tears of seduction, tears of reduction. Too many damn tears bleeding from that damn eye. While the other stays awake, doing crossword puzzles, writing love songs, and perhaps dripping a tear of joy now and then. But things are out of balance. My tear ducts are out of balance. My emotions no longer harmonious. I see shadows playing in darkness, and I wonder if my good eye has any tears to spare. Thank you. Who's called Shoes? Sometimes when I look on the floor to where you've kicked your shoes, I kick mine next to yours to see how they fit together, how they look together, how they might walk together. My shoes are so much bigger than yours, you can fit both your feet in one of mine. But I like the way your shoes look as they nestle into the soles of my feet, the curve of your shoe working into mine. Sometimes your shoes pile on top of mine. We have these little shoe nests sprinkled all around the apartment. I don't know how they get together, find each other around the furniture. They always seem to seek each other out like close friends, pair to pair. Our socks never behave that way, nor any other clothing, only our shoes. There's something homey about it, at the same time, very erotic. As the toe of your shoe creeps inside mine, I wonder if I have a foot fetish or if I'm turned on by shoes. But this is not an obsession, simply a love pat of looking at your shoes next to mine. Thank you. I grew up after leaving the Bronx in a Long Island neighborhood, which I wish they never brought me to. It was so boring. Anyway, this is the first time I ran into anti-Semitism. It's called hoopsters. It all started on the playground shooting hoops with friends. There were 5 Larrys in our neighborhood. And when one mama shouted Larry, all 5 commenced to running. Then there was the morning 3 of us awaited the high school bus. We played horse, a basketball game of ghost-like pretensions. Winner takes all to the next morning contest. weighing pot shots at the basket without a claim, just a time-passing ritual. And suddenly Larry Molman shouted at Larry Kempster, "You're just like a Jew. You can only do one thing." Because he kept shooting layups, was not basketball worldly and wise, did not diversify his shots, and kept driving persistence to the backboard. I looked on in disbelief, just as suddenly realizing why Molman always picked on me since the age of 6. So with hook shot in hand and set shot from the perimeter, jump shot from downtown, this Larry, meaning Jaffe, asked that Larry, meaning Molman, if I shot just like a Jew too. He did not answer, turning red as his hair as I proceeded to take him to the cleaners, while all I could think about were showers. Sometimes reading takes a bit out of me, you know? This next poem is called Cattle Car, and it's dedicated to the Jewish warring organization who struggled against tyranny and put up the resistance. In addition to the harm the warriors wanted to inflict on the enemy, they wanted to show the world that in spite of their isolation, the Jews resisted the Nazi murder machine. It was important to show that the Jews did not go like lambs to the slaughter. In Poland, the history of this event was recorded as a rebellion act executed by the Guardia Ludowa. Jewish warriors were not mentioned even once, although not even one Pole participated. The Germans also contributed to the historical distortion by never admitting in public to the Jewish rebellion. I cannot see myself boarding a train to oblivion, a rail to nowhere, going along with the herd for a ride. I cannot see myself, despite my Jewishness, going into a cattle car under anyone's volition, let alone my own. I cannot see myself riding the rails of a cattle car packed inside like human sardines, and someone else holds the keys to my future. I cannot see myself climbing into the car nor letting my family climb in this car without a fight. I see disheveled, disoriented Jews going for a ride, one-way tickets clutched in hands. They travel to Auschwitz or Buchenwald. And I wonder about the travel agent that sold these tickets and the tour guide from hell that gave them the ride. I cannot see myself vacationing in Poland as a holiday. This was not Noah's Ark, it was Hitler's Ark, Nazi's Ark, and they were not taking 2 of every species, they were taking 6 million of one. But I cannot see myself walking calmly without a fight, suffering dishonor of mental dismemberment, slowly to Holocaust away. Number tattoos are not rosebuds or name tags. Some say you are not they. I say I was, and I'm reborn yet again. This was death camp, and I do not hear cries of joy, only the sound of vultures parading in goose steps. But the Nazis were very polite in their violence, their uniforms crisply cut, bleeding the fingers that clutched them, the camps so spotless and scrubbed, even the ovens were self-cleaning. I wonder who made them. The Nazis so well-spoken, relocation they preached, the ghetto so dirty, scour your soul, clean up your act, take a shower in the stall without drains. They said it so politely. Many resisted, none went willingly, going on a one-way holiday, bags packed with their perishables. Where were the men? Where were the women? Where were the nations of hope as mankind and children were merchandised and victimized? They were just following orders. The Nazis were just following orders. today's Nazis are still following orders. I cannot see myself following orders. I will not follow orders. Thank you.
Larry Jaffe, thank you very much, Larry.
Yeah, you knew that was the last one.
Yeah, well, it's strong enough. So that was Larry Jaffe and Greg Byrd. Thank you both for showing up today from Florida. And hope you'll stick around for the entire show as the other guests are about to present. Pleased to next introduce briefly Arturo Desimone, who will give us his portion. I know Arturo from Medellin, and depending on depending on what you're looking for, you can get a lot of different. You can find a lot of different attributes on his menu. The Argentine, Aruban, Polish, Siberian, somewhere near the Caucasus, and in this case, he's going to present us some material from the Caucasus. But in terms of his international profile, it's quite profound. So, without any further ado, I'll introduce Arturo Desimone, who will bring his poetry and his friend Aysel's poetry to you today. Arturo.
Well, many thanks, George. I haven't been to Siberia. It's just that I often have to explain how I ended up being born on the island, in the island Aruba, because otherwise people get confused. So I mentioned all these countries are more my family background, but I have lived in Argentina. And so today we had a lineup planned of multiple poets, but due to some unfortunate circumstances, partly due to health of one of the poets, Gunil, who's one of the most well-known and widely respected contemporary poets from Azerbaijan, also a journalist, currently living in Norway or exiled in Norway. She cannot make it. We will be reading one poem of hers in her absence. And Aysel Bakhishova is here. And Aysel is, Aysel, can you show audio and video, please?
Yes, can you see me now?
Yes.
So I'm Aysel Bakhishova. I'm from Azerbaijan, but I live in San Antonio in Texas more than 2 years. And I am a writer and also a poet. I would say I've been writing since I learned alphabet, but I'm very new in this community. I'm very thankful to Arturo. He has been really great in translating my poems, Junel's poems, into English, and he was always giving us great opportunities to show the amazingness of Caucasian poetry into the world.
Well, thank you, Aysel. I think we translated them together.
Yes.
As I did with Gunil, and her friends helped me with the Azeri Turkic language. And so, yeah, we hope to keep doing readings and quartets with poets from all over the Caucasus, despite all the war zones. And so I would like to talk to you, Aysel, a bit about the poetry. Before we get started, since it's just the two of us, we could start off with a conversation also to situate our audience a bit in this far away and very interesting landscape. Azerbaijan was, to me, very foreign, and I had read a novel from Azerbaijan, a famous novel called Ali and Nino.
Yes.
Which is a kind of a love story between a Georgian
and Azerbaijani guy. It
yeah,
was the first novel that I read when I was a child.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, it's a classic by Kurban Said, who apparently wrote it under a pseudonym. and so it's like it is a yeah, it's a love story. It's about transcending boundaries and ethnic and religious differences. 'Cause Ali is Muslim and Georgians are one of the oldest Christian communities and one of the oldest Christian states in the world. And so when I told Azerbaijanis at the college where I was studying, I had read this novel, they kept inviting me to their parties and telling me about their culture and politics. It was all very funny. But still, my knowledge about this is rather archaic. So why don't you tell us what is happening today uh,
In yeah.
in Azeri poetry and Caucasian poetry, if people in Azerbaijan or you in particular
Yeah.
follow also what's happening in other parts of the Caucasus. I know that many Azerbaijani poets end up in Georgia, none, of course, in Armenia, but that doesn't mean that you don't know anything about Armenian poetry. I'm sure you do. And so, what's happening today in Azeri and Azerbaijani contemporary poetry? Uh,
Mhm.
and
So I would say after Soviet Union collapsed, Azerbaijani poetry underwent a cultural revival. And I would say we have more freedom of expression now, but we are still fighting for our freedom of expression. And we returned to our national identity and language and traditional themes. And Azerbaijani poets currently are exploring personal, political, historical narratives, and you can see the blend of modernist forms with deep cultural symbolism in Azerbaijan. And for example, I'm one of them, Junel is one of them, and we as a feminist poets, we are also talking about um, womanhood in that culture, in kind of misogynist country. And I also call myself as a traitor because I made a man a center of my poetry because writing about a man and love, because this is love. And yeah.
so the feminists weren't so happy about that you wrote all these poems about ecstatic love for a Mexican dude. And and would you say that you and Gunel Moflud, who also wrote under the pen name Imanova Gunel until she
Mhm.
was exiled, would you say that you're as influenced by what happens in the Middle East, like in Iranian poetry?
Yes,
Uh,
we are also writing about what's happening in Iran, in other Middle Eastern countries, even in Turkey, because I think all of our Middle Eastern and Asian sorrow is kind of same, and we can understand, we can feel deeply this sorrow in our poetry, and we need to be a voice of those women. Even in Iran, they cannot say any single word about their freedom. So we need to do it, and we are doing it.
Well, you wrote, I mean, you do mention a poet from Iran who was very famous and outspoken in Iran,
Mhm.
Furuch
I wrote that.
Farrokhzadeh. I mean,
Yes.
his sorrow all throughout the best, Middle Eastern poetry. But can you tell us who was Furuch Farrokhzadeh?
Yes, in my poetry, I would say two of women poets are my um, kind of divine inspirations. One of them is Furuk Farrokhzad, even though she lived in the mid of 19th century, but she's still a motivation and inspiration of women freedom and women poetry in all over the world. And other one is Didem Madak. She's from Turkey. She is also writing about her motherhood, even her loss of her own mother, and how she was struggling and fighting for love as a mom to her own daughter, and also after her mom died, her dad got married again, and it was also a loss of love for her, and her solitary world, and we can see the traces of this on her poetry.
So I noticed that your poems they read like letters, like you're writing letters home, and I wonder, is that a tradition in Caucasus poetry, Central Asian, Middle Eastern poetry? Is that something new, or is that like a Soviet poets did like Anna Akhmatova, or it's just your way of writing that the poem reads almost as a letter, as people will see soon?
Yes, in contemporary Azerbaijani poetry, love and existential reflection is one of the most used themes. And my poems are kind of love letters, but we can also call them hate letters because, you can see the mix of love and hate, and the voice of my heart to my dad, to my loved one, to my son, and it's expression of my sorrow.
Well, great. So, while we get started reading, let's have let's first hear the first poem in the original language, and I will read the translation that we've worked on in the past. And yeah.
Yes, I can start. Thank you. Oğlum, senin adını heç yerdən silməyəcəm. Bu şeirləri mən öləndən sonra oxu. Sabah gedib qanımı satacağım. Burada kimsəsizlərə $200 verirlər həftədə 2 dəfə qan verəndə. Evə çoxlu ərzaq alacağım. Oğlumun sevdiyi şirinlərdən də. Sabah səni düşünməyəcəm. Sən ölənə kimi haqqımı halal etmək istəmirdim. Məni son nəfəsimə kimi dərdsiz qoymadığın üçün. Sonra düşündüm, dərdin yoxdur və heç nə yaza bilmirsən. Elə bil ən yaxşı fotoqrafsan, Afrikada susuzluqdan ölməkdə olan uşağın şəklini çəkirsən, ona bir qurtum su vermirsən. Sonra sənə mükafat verirlər, ilin ən yaxşı fotosu üzrə. Elə bil ki, yaxın şərqdə prezidentsən, tez-tez qəti qərarlar qəbul edirsən, insanları öldürmək üçün, acından, işsizlikdən, sevgisizlikdən, kədərlənən kimi Madakın ana şeirini oxuyuram, ağlayıram. Sonra bağışlamıram Madakı. Anası onu yetim qoyduğu kimi, özü də yetim qoydu qızını. Anam məni yetim qoysa, onu da bağışlamayacam. Mənə öləndən sonra parıldayan mərmərdən qəbir daşımın üstünə qoyacaqları qırmızı güllər lazım deyil. O güllər mənim qaçqınlığıma bəraət qazandırmayacaq. Təzə bəyannamə çıxardılar. 1000 illərdir imzalamadıqlarını axır ki imzaladılar. Qadınların dünyanın heç bir ölkəsində yaşamaq izni yoxdur. Mən də nə dünyaya, nə bir ölkəyə aidəm. Feminist şairə deyirlər, amma yazmadıqlarım yazdıqlarımdan daha çoxdur. Tatun, nasazlığın, xəstəliyin varmı? Qanımı alanda məndən soruşmuşdular. Ürəyini göstərdim. Ürəyini soruşmadıq, dedilər. Mən indiyə kimi furuqdan niyə qaçdım? Övladımdan da ayrı qalmaqdan daha əzablı nə varsa bu dünyada artıq yoxdur. O güllər müəllimimin hər dəfə 8 Mart bayramı pulu gecikdirəndə məni ağlatdığı uşaqlıq illərimi geri qaytarmayacaq. Onu tərk edib Teksasa qaçdım deyə küsən atamın mənimlə barışdırmayacaq. Mənsə Fredersburg küçəsində üşüyən tənhalığımın üzünə hər gün retinol serumu vuracam. Nə qədər çapığı, çopuru varsa örtsün. O qədər gözəl olsun ki, insanlar onu tənhalıq çağırmaqdan utansın. Nə olar? Sərxan canım ağzımdan çıxana kimi məni tək qoymasın. Bütün yaralı ürəklər, uşaqlar və pişiklər mənim olsun. Bütün pullar sənin. Hatayda deyirlər yenidən zəlzələ olacaq. Qan su yerinə axacaq və uşaqların gücü prezidentin yıxdığı divarlara çatmayacaq. Səndən sonra çox insan tanıdım. Heç biri ürəyimi soruşmadı. Vaxtın olanda mənə yazarsan. Səninlə mütləq danışmalıyam. Ya da yazmasan da olar. Səndən son istəyim o ölkədən get. Yeah, this was in Azerbaijani language.
And is this poem is not in a book, or is it previously published in a book in Azerbaijan, or?
No, I haven't published my poems yet. I have, many poems that I'm planning to publish.
Well, okay. So, well, then it's great that a very widely published poet like Gwyneth Morflute promotes your work. And of course, the circumstances are very peculiar. So now I will read the English translation of this poem that we worked out together. And I use, Aysel's poems are normally untitled, so I use the first line as the title. Son of mine, I will not erase your name. Son of mine, my son, I will not erase your name from anywhere. Read these poems after I die. Tomorrow my blood will go on the market. Here they pay $200 to the ruthless when they donate blood, a bi-weekly ransom. This way I can bring in plenty for food, buy my son his favorite candies too. Tomorrow you will not cross my mind. I didn't want you to hear me recite my last rites before my death, for you're not having allowed me one painless moment until my final breath. Then I pictured you, euphoric and yet unable to write. Imagine you were a world-class photographer. Shoot a child as it slowly dies of thirst in Africa without granting him one little sip. In consequence, they award you top photo of the year. Sorry for the noise in the background in this neighborhood. Or imagine being a Middle Eastern president. You often make decisions with a certain finality to them. To kill by hunger, or through joblessness, or with the absence of love. As soon as sadness takes over, the sadness takes over, I recite Madak's poem, Mother, and cry in hindsight, I cannot pardon Madak to think that after her mother orphaned her, she went ahead and did the same to her very own daughter, orphaned her too. I sure won't forgive my mother if she goes and orphans me. I don't need red roses or a shiny marble slab after I die. No bouquet can indemnify my desertion. They have issued a new edict. At long last, they have signed what they'd only dreamt of making official over the previous millennia. Women are not allowed to live in any country in the world. What am I to do in the world anyway? What country do I belong in? Nowadays, they're calling me a feminist poet, but what I don't write is the shadow of what I write. Do you have tattoos? They ask me. Any chronic disorder? Any disease? They ask while extracting my blood. I say, my broken heart. Nobody asked you about your heart, they promptly answer. Why did I run away from Farrokhzadeh until now? Furuch, if there was anything ever in this world more painful than the estrangement from one's child, well, there isn't any more. Those flowers won't bring back childhood years when a school teacher made me cry whenever I lagged behind, on making my payments for debts incurred on the 8th of March. They won't reconcile me with father, who resents my having up and left, an exile, running off to Texas. And I will apply retinol serum to the face of my loneliness every day, shivering on a curb in Fredericksburg, to cover up as many scars and bruises as retinol serum is capable of covering. May solitude be of such beauty that you will blush and hesitate to call it by the slur of loneliness. Have mercy. My son Sarkhan won't stop pestering me until my soul is hovering outside my body, calling all wounded, lonely hearts, all children and cats. Be mine, any money I make is yours. They're talking about another earthquake forecast to hit Hatay. Blood will course like water, and children will be unable to hold together those walls the president tore down. I met many of you. None of them had queries. Please mute the background. Thank you. I met many of you. None of them had queries about my heart. Text me when you have time. I need a word with you. But if there's no way that you will speak to me, hear out my one last request and leave that country. So that was the first poem in the series.
Thank you.
Thank you. These are, so despite your activist career, these are very intimate poems, very personal. Of course, just love politics, and it's all. Well, I hope that there is a way for you to publish somehow in Azerbaijan these days.
I don't think it's possible now.
No. See,
Yes.
it's not possible for. Is it possible for any writers today who you know in Azerbaijan or who are not?
It's really hard and very strict. That's why people are avoiding to publish their poems in Azerbaijan, and most of the poets are exiled in other countries.
Yes, terrible. I think Gunel was exiled for speaking against the war with Armenia. So, and for other reasons. So now to let's
go on reading.
Yeah. Yeah. Maybe maybe if there is because we want to also read a poem by Gunel in a dual reading, and then we want to sign off maybe with a poem you wrote in English directly, since you're in Texas. So maybe read the first two parts or the best. I mean, your favorite part of this poem, or the first two parts, or unless that's if you're
of Gunel or my
of yours,
Gunel,
if you're comfortable with that, or otherwise only if you find that wouldn't be an injustice.
Okay.
Otherwise, you can read the whole thing. The whole.
Do you want me to read in Azerbaijani or in English?
Yes, in Azerbaijani.
Okay, I will read half of it. Yeah, my poems are. I'm sorry, my poems are usually really long.
No, it's just we only have.
They are 2 or 3 pages. Okay. Bu şeir səni necə ilk dəfə bərbər stolunda görüb vurulduğuna etiraf etdiyim sevgi mesajı ilə başlaya bilərdi. Amma 22 yaşlı saçının qarasına inanmaqdan yorulmayan arzuları olan Mahsa, Tehranda əxlaq polisləri tərəfindən öldürüləndən sonra yaxın şərqdə bir də azadlıq gəlmədi. Səni sevmək üçün o qədər gecdir ki, 30 yaşını təzə keçmişəm, amma son nəfəslərimdəyəm. San Antonio'nun ən kasıb, ən avara məhəlləsində səndən gizlənirəm. İnana bilmirəm, sən də, Azərbaycanlı Hitler də eyni dünyada yaşayır, eyni atmosferdən nəfəs alırsınız. Gəlmə bizə. Evdə çayla içməyə heç nəyimiz yoxdur süfrəyə qoyan. Mənə yazığın gəlməyindən qorxuram. Sənə o varlı, bəzəkli qız yaraşar, mən yox. Mən həm fəhlə, həm qaçqınam. O hündür, markasını tanımadığım bahalı, qırmızı maşınında oturanda da utanıram. Azərbaycanda qız uşaqlarını tualetə tək buraxmayın dedilər. Anaları da tualetin qapısının ağzında durub qızlarının çıxmağını gözlədilər. Analar yazıq neynəsin? Uşaqlıqdan bəri evdə də, məktəbdə də qız doğulmağın günah olduğunu onlara öyrətmişdilər. Miley deyir ki, bilirəm gəncliyimdə çox dəli olmuşam. Miley, mən ağlımın başımda olduğu bir günü belə xatırlamıram. Soyunanda hamı ayağına baxıb onu söymüşdü. Amma ayağını yox, çılpaq ruhunu göstərmək istəyəndə heç kim görmək istəməmişdi. Yeah. Thank you.
Oh,
You
thank
can
you.
read it.
Yes. So this poem, it mentions you address many family members as well as people who are famous in international politics or in Iran, like Mahsa Amini, and you mentioned the pop star Miley Cyrus. This is very funny.
Yes.
So
She is the symbol of feminism for me.
really,
I love it. I love her.
Yes, they don't. Do they? Do most women wear hijab, or they also have full covering and niqab in Azerbaijan, or just curious, or not?
No, you can find many women, yes, they are wearing hijabs and niqabs, but you can also see people wearing, whatever they want, but it doesn't mean we are still free.
Okay, well, sorry, that just popped into my head, that question.
Yes.
You talk a lot about Iran, and anyway, let's get started. So this is the third poem in the series, untitled. It's a letter. I can't believe that you are no longer with us, Firangis.
This one is about the Ferengis. If you want, you can read the other one. The last one.
Oh, yes. Sorry. Right.
Thank you for everything.
Yes. No, I got confused there. This poem could have started on a love note where I confess how smitten I was when I first saw you in the barbershop chair, but not after 22-year-old Mahsa Amini, whose dreams never faded, died in Tehran at the hands of the morality police for believing in the blackness of her mane. Freedom could no longer dawn upon the Middle East. It's too late to love you. I've just turned 30, but I'm on my last breath. I'm hiding from you in the poorest, grungiest neighborhood of San Antonio. I can't believe that you and the Azerbaijani Führer inhabit the same world, breathe the same air. Do not come visit us. We have nothing to add to the tea at home, no samovar to serve from. I dread that you will feel pity for me. That beautiful Iris is suitable for you, not me, a laborer and a refugee. I am ashamed of the time I sat in that big fancy red hot rod car of yours, of which I don't even know the brand name. In Azerbaijan, they told us never to let girls go to the bathroom by ourselves. Mamas stood outside the hammams, waiting for their daughters by the latrine doors. What else could poor mothers do? From infancy, they were taught at home and at school that it is a sin to be born a girl. Miley Cyrus says she knows I used to be insane when I was younger. Miley, I can't remember one day of sanity. When she had dressed, everyone looked at her legs and cursed her. When she wanted to bare her soul instead of her thighs, nobody cared to look. When you go to Baku, gather my father's, mother's, sisters, and brothers' blouses. Bring them to me worn, unwashed, so that I may wallow, kissing and hugging them all day. If you see the husband who wronged me, tell him I forgave. Tell him I haven't been unfaithful, that I too have missed him. Do not tell him of how I fell for you, for he will stab you. Carry that junkie, so thoroughly do I understand her, that if I could, If I can, I'll beg the physicians to shoot me up with their sharpest syringes, wake me up after your wedding day, once the forced marriages in Goichai and the blood and soil creed in the Caucasus have ended, after the last mustachioed dictators drop dead. I'm writing a novel about being a woman in America and on Earth. I don't believe in books with happy endings either. Allah creates every servant to die. My sister tells me, you thirst after money. Whatever happened to that child in our apartment complex who never could stop crying? His voice echoed all throughout the building. Someone beating his mother. Nobody would come near the doorway or even dial 911. They said, we cannot get involved. He is her husband. If you will never be mine, why go on feeding me with idle hope? I don't even know how to carry on without you. Need to start preparing. We were plotting to orchestrate a coup together after the elections. What prevented us? I was going to make vermicelli for our desperate romance, slice it myself. We would draw iodine with which to drench our homeland's sizzling borders. You and I would fast this Ramadan and break into our iftar every day in the Palestinian mosque. My sister didn't recognize me either. They spread false news that Mahsa suddenly collapsed in the police van, died in custody, a heart failure. If you ask whether I still go to work in the hair salon every day in Texas, clutching my son's hand, every evening I go to bed reciting the Surah of the Throne, so that God may shield my little boy from school shootings. I also pray that my parents don't die before my confirmation as an authentic seeker of asylum, and that I may revisit Baku to see my elders one last time. The poem letter ends that way. I took the liberty of changing nobody wanted to call 102 to nobody wanted to call 911, because that would be maybe understood more quickly, but I think I'll change it back to 102 because it's clearly an emergency, a hotline for the authorities in Azerbaijan and not in
Yes.
the United States.
Yes. Mhm. Thank you so much
No,
for everything that you're doing for Azerbaijani poetry.
Yes, well, yes, thank you. And how are we for time now? Are we?
Pretty close.
We're pretty close.
Yeah.
Uh-huh. So then, we will read one poem by translation by Gunul Moflut.
Mhm.
And maybe can you read the first verses, the first I mean, so not a few lines, but more than that, but like,
Mhm.
but not more than a page
Mhm.
of Gunul's poem in the original language, and then I will read it in English.
Yes, I will read How to Keep Silent About You. The name of the poem is this. Sən haqqında susmaq. Bir vaxtlar, bir vaxtlar, bir vaxtlar qırmızı köynəyimi əyləmlərin küləyinə buraxacaq. Kipriklərimi inqilabların alovunda ütəcək qədər iti dırnaqlarım vardı. Bir vaxtlar, bir vaxtlar, bir vaxtlar səni unutmaq deyil, səni yadıma sala bilmək, sənsizliyə deyil, sənə dözmək kimi dərdim vardı. Bir vaxtlar, bir vaxtlar, bir vaxtlar öz əllərimlə qıpqırmızı bir sol ölkəsi qurmaq, böyük binaları odlayıb nəhəng tonqallarla şəhərləri isitmək kimi arzularım vardı. Amma bir gün, amma bir gün, amma bir gün səninlə Məni birazca möhkəm qucaqlamağının saçlarıma 2 sığal artıq çəkib, gözlərimə bircə an daha uzun baxmağının davasını apararkən yaxaladım üzümü.
So now over to
Who's the heart deep silent about you?
yes. So this is a poem by our friend Gunil Moflud or Gunil Imanova, who lives in Norway. She was born in the Nagorno-Karabakh disputed territory. She wrote a memoir about growing up in this region, and Gunil was born in the early 80s, and so I like translating these poems because they are very romantic, nostalgic for a different era. How to keep silent about you. There were times, those were the days. Then I let my red shirt fly off in winds of revolt. I had the sharpest nails of all the schoolgirls, my eyebrows scorched by flames of revolution. Those were the times, dreams of building a red country, to set fire to newspapers under the cold new buildings, to warm the old cities. There was the unfortunate trouble of remembering you and dreaming at the same time of a red future for our nation. But one day, I caught myself picking fights with you over banal, almost counter-revolutionary requests to hug me just a little more, to run our hands through each other's hair just 2 more times, to gaze in your eyes just a little longer. I was ashamed I could not but comply. That day, my tiny leftist fists did not hold themselves up, as if the transplanted heart of an unfamiliar woman trembled inside me. That day, it was not the redness of my brigade shirt, but the poppy redness of my lips that made me happy. That day, I listened not to the songs of revolution on the ramparts, but to the songs of lovers. I used to be a revolutionary dawning. I wanted to become a woman. I could not become both at once. Wait a minute, my love. Hear out my apology. You hear falsity in my voice, echoes of hollowness in your ears when I sing the songs of love to you. I have never regarded as song-worthy this country that folds up torn pages of Dr. Zhivago, making a paper cone to fill with sunflower seeds to peddle on street corners, as if a Pasternak were no better than a roadside vendor's pistachios. This country guilty of acts worse than murder, worse than slander, calumnies, and something sweet of my own. Nothing and nobody of this nation do I consider mine. You talk as if I never considered the beggar child, to whom I cannot offer some portion of my salary, without shame eating away my face. As my own son, the whore standing in the street without trees, with her autumn makeup peeling, and to whom I cannot offer some tribute, without shame eating away my knees. Surely I was afraid to consider her, that she might be my own mother, the sidewalk-dwelling man, as beaten as a pita bread, shouldering bags of unsellable dried grub. I cannot offer him a little money, without shame eating away my earth. Could I not consider him my father? To the contrary, my love, the beggar child is mine to call me mommy, the prostitute I can call my mommy, the poppy seed chewing street dweller of this country, father of mine. This is how much I have loved our country. Yes, you too, I have tried to love in our own way. We all try. I love, wait a minute, my love. We were going to talk about love. I loved this nation for only one single reason, that it is full of mercy. The people here are just too full of mercy. They would not even put up a poster of a pitifully smiling child onto the walls designating the abortion chambers in hospitals. Here, women are killed only once, my love, just once. Wait a moment. Death is the reason why I must be asking you now. With which lip should I kiss you? With what wheel of time should I measure our days? Most importantly, why do I need to love you? Tear your chest from my face and take your black chest hairs with it. I wish to stare into the world for a change. Wait, wait, my love, before walking out, remind me, when was it that I first loved you? 5XL, my enormous man who joins the caravan folk, then ran away. A woman is a master in the house of man. Man is a guest at the house of women. Do not come into my house empty-handed. You know I cannot love the men who always stink of cologne. Scatter some gunpowder in your chest hairs before visiting me. Cock a gun instead of a flower. Bring me war instead of a kiss. Then see how quickly my clothes come off. Enter as an ogre, earthquake in your feet, lightning crowning your head, the flood behind your shoulders. I want a bath immediately upon letting you in. Always remember that salt marshes and plateau lands give me a runny nose as dare, as they grow no grass for the winds to devour. Now, what to do with this gloomy face of yours? My love, enter wearing a Cretan's warm smile, compelling me to cover myself up more. On your way out, don't take everything with you. Don't worry, I will never make demands of the God who handcrafted my tears in childhood, or of the man who made me cry into womanhood. Bring me nothing if that's how you like it. Leave the jackets and accolades behind. Visit me wearing only 3 blessed ripples of your forehead's permanent frown. So that was a slightly liberal translation of Gundel Moflut's poem. And I would thank you, George, for hosting us in this important uh, virtual version of the Whitman House. And I think in your favorite poem of Whitman, Sali au Mons, Whitman does mention the Caucasus, even though it's not a huge coincidence since that poem mentions just about every place on Earth. So
That's good. That's good. Thank you, Arturo. I really appreciate it. Your mention of Whitman.
Thank you.
And yes, Salute Ramon, that's one of his list poems where he goes on. And if you want to read it out loud, you have to boil it down to maybe 10 locations around the world just to summarize it. The Transcaucasus is something we know very little about here, most of us in America. We do know a little about perhaps about Armenians, because Armenians have settled in the United States after 1923, a large number. Less so Georgia and Azerbaijan. But each of these countries are very rich culturally, and it's great to have a little bit of exposure to them here today. And hopefully, as Penn says, we Americans do very little to learn about the literature of other cultures, and anything we can do to make that happen more is all to the benefit. So thank you for joining us today for that purpose. I'll now turn to the third and final group for today, led by Matthew Hupert, who wishes he was elf-taught but has not been elf-taught. He's a very prominent figure here in New York City area. Or hosts a number of activities, as a fine, upstanding poet himself, and it's been as far. He was in San Antonio not too long ago, or he read in San Antonio. He'll be reading for us here at the Birthplace, Birthplace in June, with Michelle Whitaker as part of the Walking with Whitman series. Fine poet and organizer, got an ACCA award for his efforts in New York City, which is quite prestigious. He's got several very nice people with him that we don't see too much of all the time, and so I'm glad to be able to welcome Matthew and let him show off some of the talent from New York City that's we're going to share with us today. Matthew Hupert.
Thank you, George. It's a total honor to be reading here. These some stunning words have already been heard, and I hope we can hold up our end here from New York. I have three poets and myself. We're going to try to shove it into our time as best we can. We're going to start. I'm not going to read everybody's bio just for the sake of time. I'm just going to say that every one of these is really excellent poets, all of whom I happily listen to any day of the week. And we're going to start with Mr. Ed Go. Ed, take it away.
Okay. Hello. Thank you, Matthew. And thank you for letting me step in sort of last minute for Melissa, who had to wasn't able to join us. I'm going to read a poem I've been working on for the past few months. It's called Don't Read Me. Waiting forever at a red light, unhyperbolically, I counted and waited for that time, but thought that time only a speck of a fleck in an eye of a fly dying a long life on a wall in a Motel 6 somewhere off 95 in Jersey, while the nation dies along with, and I sing too, America. I've given you nothing, and now I'm all. 2 bags of Doritos, $1.99, set on fire July 4th, 1986. The forever war is killing us. Go fuck yourself with your Guantanamo. When will we be naked and look through full libraries of venom and tears, the carpenter's plank, the woodcutter's open vein, and the varied carols of workers pounding their tools, the pioneer on the plain seeking a home where America never was America, where never tyrants scheme with false crown and patriotic, a dream the dreamers dreamed in the air we breathe, who mumbles in the dark and draws that veil across, poor white fool, Negro bearing scars, the Indian driven from home, immigrant driven from hope, fighting the same stupid land grab in a brazen Greek giant with conquering limbs, astride from land to land at our sea-washed gates, this mighty woman with torch and flame, beacon glow, and worldwide welcome, to Ireland's dark shore, Haiti's midnight, England's tea, mother of exiles, make America America again. Land that never has been. Give me your tired, your poor, your huddled masses, wretched refuse, unhoused and tossed, by tempest beaten, by pomp and circumstance. You should have seen me reading Thomas Paine and People magazine, feeling sentimental about Frida and Trotsky. It occurs that I am you talking to myself when I go into the Apple store and buy apples with my unworldly sex appeal. America, when you be worthy of your million trans children, who are perfect as they are, but your machinery is lacking. You should sell robots, 500 billion apiece, population 330 million, 175,936, and no official national language. America, free Mumia Abu Jamal. I stood on the sidewalk where Eric Garner was murdered and saw the blind scales of the sordid banshee tipped in favor of the North. The brother in the kitchen laughed and put shoulder to wheel, marched down the concrete slab to find the eye of a beholder, landing on the beach, his gavel pulled down. The dark veil of iniquity, after all. We are not a third world draining blood in pots to pan across a velvet shackle, the lisp of mother time and farther than, the lapse of crisp willow and frogs and toads that sleep there. You could not fathom the depth of indigenous dreams. America, what have you done with Lincoln's head? Put it on Penny and watch him die again. You can't admit Leonard Peltier's innocent, because that would be admitting everything ever done to Native people was criminal. And Vincent Chin was sacrificed so you could put a price tag on the life of a Chinaman, $3,000 and no cents. Consider our national resources consist of a six-pack of genitals and unpublishable literature printed in Xerox on recycled toilet paper, to say nothing of our corporate prisons, nor the millions who live under the light of 1,000 moons in the greenhouse ghettos of silicone meat plants. My ambition is to be atheist, despite the fact that I'm Catholic. But how could I write Amazing Grace in your hate-driven tone? I will sell my strophes at 5 cents a foot, each strophe individual as an iPhone. You can back up your strophes when you upgrade. My strophes are made in China. Stop making excuses for the money grubbers feeding us scraps. We don't need another Bank of America on the corner by the Whole Foods, across from Target where I buy my batteries and underwear. This is the impression I get, scrolling indefinitely, down deep, where who knows, I might find one weird trick to change my life, or what Rodney Allen Rippey is doing now. America, your gulf is metaphorical. It lies between your middle and your edges, a pot you piss in. Boats lining up bearing your mother and her refugees from all the places you never want to go to as a tourist or a friend to a distant relative, who eat the animals you don't eat and value the values you can't see. On garbage day, the trucks are diverted to the high-rise neighborhoods. The snowplows plow the streets there twice before they come down my street, and 9 times before they make it to where the kids go hungry and play with guns. While you blow your nose on the flags of Caribbean nations, and we nose our blow awaiting the mothership. Her flags are Jolly Roger, Gadsden, and a rainbow. America, this is autocorrect. Your prestige is a ducking lair. This is the long, dark night of cliche and turbulence. It takes us to a promised place to lay us down by the rivers where we wept, when we remembered and hanged our harps on the willows in the midst thereof. For there they that carried us away captive required of us a song, and they that wasted us required of us mirth, saying, sing us the song. How shall we sing that song in a strange land? If I forget you, America, let my right hand forget her cunning. If I do not remember you, let my tongue cleave to my roof. Remember those who said, raise it, even to the foundation thereof, the daughter of Babylon, who is to be destroyed. Happy shall he be that rewards you as you have served us. Happy shall he be that takes and dashes your little ones against the 3 branches. Thank you.
Thank you, Ed. Stunning, really strong and stunning. I'm glad you could step in. Melissa's voice is much missed, but yours is very welcome. Please tell her we missed her, and next time we'll do it with her as well. Next, we have Thomas Fucaloro, who is a powerhouse of a poet, a powerhouse as a performer. He does so much for the poetry community and for the communities in general. Always really a stunning performer. Please give it up for Thomas Fucaloro.
Thanks. Some of us may know who L.J. Snyder is in the New York City poetry community. This poem is for her. Trouble is where you mind it, and these are relapsable times. As you wish you had more than a bong and a beer, something to calm the cruel hanging that is occurring inside your body, as your insides feel as if they are all hung up against the artist's gallery of your inner mausoleum. And you turn on the news, and you turn on the people-pleasing app, and you turn on turning off, and you are still a strange thing caught on camera, some collective swarm of harvesting trouble is where you mind it. And these are relapsable times. And we tend to blame the outside for what the inside wants. That's how any sickness progresses, any society. Death is how the winning know when to increase the dosage, who to go after, and what they wear, how they wear it. Reading between the lines because you don't know how to ask direct questions. Reading between the thighs because you don't know how to ask direct questions, getting the spaghetti entree before the shakedown, becoming politicians before putting on airs. Trouble is where you mind it. And these are relapsable times. An open mind is like an open trunk. Everyone is trying to put their crap in. Different years, same angles, unwanted angels, no wings, all experts, all open mouths, animal farms of regulation. Why are things so creepy? Why is the world as messy as this poem? Why does everything outside myself cause all this trouble is where you mind it, and these are relapsable times, and I think of you holding, and I think of you holding, and I think of you holding on, stoic, graceful. My favorite portrait of you is now. And I have one more poem. Thank you. Tonight, the highlight reel of the Pope's funeral on CBS. What we suffer, we always break the scorn of a mother born of fire as the casket aches, slanted, held up by men standing straight up, thinking slanted. What we don't see goes beyond the television cameras and any vision our producers can cough up in hopes of monetizing what comes after. It's nothing but hot coal stencil images surrounding. Take thy suffering and broken and create song. Turn the day into eyes that stare back at you. No thoughts, just prayers, nothing but rise and repeat. Can I die of all this unity while all of this genocide transpires without ceremony? The news broadcaster says this pain will transform you. Or is it their earpiece? Is God our metaphorical earpiece? Is this all for show? Have I been smoking too much weed? What we break, we always scorn as we suffer of a mother born of fire and blunt. If you stare at the tens of thousands of people at this ceremony without blinking, you can see the heart of it, the big grooming heart of it, chaotic but kept in line by this faith. This slanted thinking that unites them for this one single death, but can't get them to unite over 100,000. What we see goes beyond the television cameras and any vision the producers can cough up in hopes of monetizing what comes after. The most powerful images are the ones that they tell us. It always lacks features and technique. It's about embracing simple truths, rise and repeat, take this suffering and broken and create song, turn the days into eyes. Thanks.
Again, stunning, beautiful. Thank you, Thomas. Really great stuff. Really great. All right, next will be Robert Gibbons. Robert has sort of had retired or taken a sabbatical for a year or two from poetry, and his voice has been so missed here in New York because he is a real, again, another powerhouse performer. So I'm not going to blah, blah, blah about him. I'd let his words speak for themselves. Robert Gibbons.
Hi, Matthew. Thank you so much for having me. And my piece, one piece is called November. November has already arrived. We anticipate the first Black female president, but it did not happen. And the world is still so divided. So I will always side with gratitude, make do of the Pax Romana. My attitude will remain unchanged. And some will say voting doesn't matter. Then they renounce the elected officials as if we should not proceed ahead with caution. And I will not balk in November. Neither will I stoop in memory. I will make my time count, although I have to vote, and try not to loathe what I will see or hear. Try not to make incitement or insurrection my predicament. In November, I'm still stranded in this facility with use my ability for intellectual pursuits. Will continue to read books and feel my journals will base my thinking in the fact rather random, still a few more weeks before orientation ends. Then I can really pursue other opportunities, although they are already present. I left Brooklyn a dumb drunk or a cokehead on the dead end of Flatbush near Grand Army Plaza, near the Fountain of Neptune, where I would sit on a park bench and weep or smoke cigarettes, make the grand arch my halo, but below the smoke and haze of addiction, I will still be selfish and restless, not being truthful, but bitter about my nose as a litter box of the psychedelic or lavender lamp, would camp out all day on water, would barter my legacy for the limited. The voices I hear in the walls made me timid. I would hide behind the blinds. Only I could see, but I believed I could. I made use of the should or should not, the could or the could not, but I lied. I tried to convince myself of composure, tried to make myself with the stream of consciousness, but then after the drain became a pain to breathe, to believe was only a facade, like the mirages I contrived in my vision. I thought I heard of fear, so I would steer clear of the door, would post signs or protection around me, so I would not be invaded until I faded into the back room, to the tomb of clothes, of books, which I ripped and shredded into pieces to make into confetti. In November, I have been here for almost 2 weeks, and I'm slowly coming back to my peak. I'm slowly taking care of my business, though sometimes I get restless. I want to look back and glorify. I want to go back and deify the drug.
I don't know what happened to Robert there. He seems to have vanished.
Man, bummer.
All right, I guess I will pick up the slack, and if Robert comes back, we'll put him back on. Yeah. But oh my God, Robert is so good. I've missed his voice so much. And before I start with my own set, I just want to have a little political blah, blah, blah quickly. The rise of the global fascism has been frightening and fast, although we've been seeing it happening for at least 40 years, but it still seems stunningly quick. So I'm so glad to see so many people speaking out, because in these days, silence is complicity. And, I always say it's up to us poets, and that lets you know how tragic the situation is. Anyway, I'm gonna do a bunch of stuff, some personal, some political, and we'll go from there. The first one is called 0.00007692%. 99.86% of the weight of the solar system is just the sun. Gas giants make up most of the rest. Home is a statistical blip at best. There are 4.8420955 times 10 to the 27th inches from one end of the universe to the other. The length of time between darknesses, between arrival and departure, less than a fluttering eye blink. 7.692 times 10 to the minus 6% of the age of everything. And poof, you aren't small. You're a freaking miracle. Let's dance. This one is called You Can't Be Betrayed by Hatred. I'm sorry about my voice. I just had some dental work and I hear myself slurring. If it's annoying, I apologize. You can't be betrayed by hatred. I've ridden the razor's edge, flirted with annihilation in luxury suites and third-class carriages, faced down danger and embraced uncertainty, crossed borders, eyed the law, drew uncrossable lines and crossed them myself. But in the end, it was my safe place that broke me. All right. This next one is called alacrois, which I guess is from a Greek root meaning shifting colors. I don't know if I'm pronouncing it right, but anyway. I was weaned on Star Trek and Laugh-In. My heroes were astronauts and Batman. The world swirled paisley, revolution was the water we swam in. My dad took us to see Monterey Pop. He understood we had a new zeitgeist, and he didn't fight it. His days in Dachau gave him perspective. And some of my oldest clear memories that I've retained unbroken were Otis Redding and Janis on that big screen. I was 7, and nothing would be the same. Bam, Batman, my father. Bam, Jim Kirk, moon landing. Boys coming, bam, home in body bags tilted across the screens to a soundtrack of Otis and Janis shaping the space I filled like liquid. Bam, revolution. Bam, revolution. Bam, revolution. Bam, revolution. So no, I won't comply in advance. Thank you. And this is it's mostly new stuff. This is an older one, though. This one is called, I keep reminding myself that while man in the high castle's a cautionary tale for most, and a rear view for some, there are people out there for whom it's Lord of the Rings. That's the title. I got a D+ in white. My wife was a B-. She's white in New York. In New Hampshire, she's ethnic. My parents fled Europe to escape the tradition of pogrom and smokestack. And I'm almost glad my father's passed, and I'm almost glad of my mother's dementia, so they couldn't see blood and soil chanters called upstanding citizens from the White House lawn. And I'm almost glad my father's passed, and I'm almost glad of my mother's dementia, so they didn't see a Pittsburgh man visit a bris, shout all Jews must die, and spew water and spray death like water in a garden of flowers. A melting pot is a cauldron of poison, insisting sameness is strength. Again, the melting pot is a cauldron, insisting sameness is strength. Strength is cross-pollination in populations and philosophies and families. Purity is death. That goes for gene pools and meme pools. Purity is death. Tolerance is not the high ground, it's a basic minimum. You don't want your lover, neighbor, very best friend to say, I tolerate you. That would be bad. Race isn't real, but racism is. Thank you. A few more. This one is called The Good China. As a Cold War kid, the term good China was ambiguous. Were we preparing for company, maybe a Jewish holiday, or was World War III starting in Taiwan? I don't have good China. I have dishes I don't use that were my parents' version of good China, riotous, jungle-edged in colors vibrant and bold, a gift from my first friend to die's mother, for what reason I no longer recall, that I took from their empty apartment. There is no good China anymore. There is no evil China anymore. There is no anywhere anymore, just an unending string of business interests and armies in a global clusterfuck. None of it is ambiguous. All right, 2 more. A little personal one, I think. This is called, Do Not Remove This Label Under Penalty of Law. Caution, watch your step. Slippery when wet. Lay flat to dry. Caution, fragile. Caution, do not use blades to open. Do not fold, spindle, or mutilate. This end up. Don't use if damage. Contents may have settled. Handle with care. Thank you. All right, one more. This is another older one. And I wasn't going to read this, and then this morning it came to mind, so I'm flowing with it. It's called The Promise Wasn't Just Flying Cars and 3D TVs. We were raised in that golden moment between the pill and AIDS, when the rain-slicked streets pulsed bodies and beats, neon reflections, sidewalks and minds, and wind-etched skin, and the gray faces were in retreat. There are betrayals that are worse, much worse than lies. When truths become undone, love, a weapon deadly, unwittingly turned on ourselves, friendly fire, candor, and a kiss. Almost as sad as the beautiful dead are those who name each death as victory and vindication, who name the world's suffering, who name joy sin. But let us not name them, pale and bloodless and of little worth. Let's dance instead. Let's dance instead. Let's dance instead. Crouched in pain, bounding in jubilation, screaming defiance, arms outthrust and not akimbo, kick and scratch and stroke and slide, writhe and spin, riot, riot, riot. Remember who we were with those who still are. Films are in 3D now. I saw a flying car the other day. The future is always a gift we give ourselves. Just tug on the ribbon like this. Thank you. Thank you all very much. Again, this has been a super honor. George, thank you for the invite.
Yes, sir.
Everyone keep shouting out again. These are not times for silence. You know, put up stickers, talk on an open mic, do whatever the fuck you need to do to get the word out, because this shit isn't going to change itself. Much love.
Thank you, Matthew Hupert. Thank you, Larry Jaffe. Thank you, Arturo, Desimone, and your guests. A little piece of Robert Gibbons is a real treasure. Even if we only got a portion of Robert Gibbons, it's really a pleasure to have him on here as briefly as you did. And of course, all of you who got your full share, thank you all for sharing your talents with us. It was a real powerhouse reading, I thought, among the readings that we have on Poets Building Bridges. This was a real special one. So thank you all for that. This is it for the series until October. We'll be back in October to continue October, November, December, 3 months worth for this season. But we do have the first Friday of each month, Walking with Whitman series at the Walt Whitman Birthplace with some very good talent, that comes to internationally and nationally and regionally to that. So I want to thank you all for contributing once again. I'm going to be turning this back over